I wrote a post beginning of the year called The Newsonomics of Zero, saying that zero was now the most important number because what companies need to do is to regain growth. The last time newspaper companies grew in the US was 2006, 7 years ago at this point. They need to grow, and they're not there yet. This is where they are. This is the big picture of that industry. And I'll talk about magazines here and broadcast as well. So if you look at it overall, revenue down across the daily newspaper industry, 2% last year. That's an improvement over the previous years. But remember, no growth since 2006. Circulation revenue up 5%. A very positive story. That's because the Reno paper, the New York Times, and another 400 papers or so in the United States are charging for digital access and have also priced up. We'll talk about that impact, very positive, and has a lot of implications. The big problem, print advertising revenues. The industry lost 19%, newspaper industry lost 19% of its revenues in 2009, right after, in the midst of the recession there, 19%, so almost 1 out of every $5. Not one of those dollars has come back. It's been negative ever since then. But what publishers said is, okay. A year ago when I talked to people, they'd say, yep, 2% down, we think we can get to zero. And if we can get to zero and we can do some other things right, we can see a future. Because it's like, well, if you can go like that and then start going up, at least you got a future. What we got to do is keep this number, this minus number, so it's no greater than this plus number in circulation revenue, because that's the two revenue sources, readers and advertisers. What's going on right now, and one of the reasons the Washington Post was sold this month, or last month, is print ad revenue is going digital even more quickly than anybody suspected. Now, this is also starting to happen to the broadcast industry. The broadcast industry is facing the same kind of disruption, both in audience and in terms of advertising movement. Magazines have faced it. Their pages are going way down. Even Bloomberg Business Week, which they buy this, they revitalize it, they invest in it, they lost 20% of their ad pages in the first quarter. The massive movement of dollars and euros and pounds and yen across the world from print to digital. What I wanted to do to introduce us today, because it is the beginning of 2012, talk about 10 big trends here. So, tablets. It is funny, I remember 2 years ago at IIS, we did the regular IIS conference, and at the end of the conference, Steve Jobs was introducing the tablet. And we had it on both screens. And people said, big iPhone, remember that? 2 years ago, big iPhone? I don't see why anybody would want to use that. And other people said, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. So my contention is that it is the missing link. It is the missing link, maybe the first of several, we can hope, between old news world in reading and in advertising. The numbers are astounding. So we have 100 million of these. These are tablets overall. Obviously, the iPad as the leader, sold so far. And we think another 100 million will be sold this year. So 200 million in 2 years from just... As that, largely because of smartphones, Americans are reading 13 minutes of news a day more. The first increase in news reading anyone has ever tracked. With the tablet, does that mean people are actually going to read more news because we can read it anywhere? Smartphones. I imagine most of the people in this room probably have one, but only 20% of Americans who have cell phones have smartphones. We're at the beginning of this market. News anywhere. Let's look at the entertainment models. Very good, especially being in LA, the entertainment capital. Exactly what you hear conjectured about with New York Times today. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. This is the model. HBO, Comcast, Netflix, same thing. Very, very simple. Netflix says to you now, forget that DVD stuff. Just send us $8 a month, automatic, over the bank account, and you can access our stuff anytime you want on your laptop, your desktop, or your tablet. And if you still want those DVDs, we got this other plan, but $8. Comcast is saying, very interestingly, there's an Xfinity, which I like, Xfinity, right, app. So I'm paying Comcast, God knows, $150, $160 a month, and they're saying, well, you can now get your stuff without a sling box through your electronic devices. Again, pay us once, and you get a lot. And then if you go back 4 years, New York Times put up its paywall in January 2011. When they announced it a year earlier than that, they were derided in the industry press. And people said, these guys are fools. They were fools before, and they tried to paid product time select. This will never work. The internet wants, information wants to be free on the internet, if you remember that nice little motto. Well, it turns out that while there will always be piracy of music and of film, and you could call it piracy of news, people will pay if given a fair proposition. And they are showing that every day now. So it's a total turnaround. So the uniqueness here is really important. You're not going to pay for something you can get free. People aren't stupid. So Netflix looked at it and said, we provide a pretty good aggregation service, especially in the red envelope, streaming, as we know, in and out, but a lot of stuff, and pretty much a miracle that you can hit the remote control and turn on a movie in 15 seconds. Now we're getting used to that, but it's still a miracle, right? But they said, we're going to get ahead of the curve. One of the reasons that Netflix had one major stumble, but it's a very smart company, and they said, we're the best movie aggregation company out there, but other people can come along and they can do deals with the studios, and they can aggregate as well. What we need is uniqueness. So they did their stuff in their first show, House of Cards, Emmy nominated. They've done 2 or 3 since then, and lots more coming. A key to all access, okay, get me all my stuff on any device seamlessly. I don't care how you do the magic in the background. Give me stuff I can't get for free. And if you can give me a higher quality experience with some part of it, that might wed me to your brand. So I call this Adventures in Newsland. Talk about how the age of convergence has finally arrived. People have been talking about convergence since a number of you in this room were about 10 years old, but it has finally come this year in the guise of the tablet. Let's look at big picture 2012 because we're almost there. So, number one, the tablet is a huge changer of games. Now, let's recall that the tablet is only 20 months old. It's fairly amazing here. Who can identify, probably somebody over 50, who's in that picture there? Charlton Heston, very good. And the language up there? It's fake Hollywood Aramaic. It's very cool. You can try to read it. It won't do you any good. Now, who do we have? Improbably, the man who runs the largest news company in the world. And a lot of people don't think about that. News Corp is a huge corporation and largely makes its profits off Ben Stiller movies. But if you just look at their news revenues, they're the largest news company in the world, Australia, UK, and US. And of course, the real profit. Just amazing couple of weeks as people figure out Steve Jobs' legacy. Dominant business model. Very simple. And very importantly, this isn't a newspaper model by itself, not a magazine model, although we see Time and Hearst and Condé Nast picking up on it as well. It's HBO, it's Comcast. Very simple idea. Pay us once. This moderate low price, we'll get it to you wherever you are on a smartphone, a tablet, and then we can price up after we have converted you to all access.